Hello, hello, and welcome back to another YouTube and Facebook Live with me, Prandhara Prem. So I'm gonna give people a few minutes to come on. I see people are coming on, and I just want to let you know that my show is all about having these adult conversations so that we can really be able to release the taboos, the stigmas around dating, around relationships, around sexuality. So we're back. If you were here last week, you saw Gabby and I. We talked about relationships and dating in Brazil, in the US, before our spiritual journeys and after our spiritual journeys. And there was a lot of people coming on and making comments and asking questions and just really wanting to hear from a male's perspective. So I invited Mr. J of Mr. J Speaks on Instagram. And I'll tell you, Mr. J Speaks, we've met on Instagram. And if you don't know, we have a regular Tuesday night adult conversations where we talk about all things adult related, real talk about relationships, sexuality. And Jay has been a regular every Tuesday night. And I've always loved his point of view, his what he has to share and what he has to say on the topic of relationships. So I thought he would be perfect to bring on. So welcome, Mr. J Speaks.
Thank you. Thank you.
And of course, we have Gabby again, Gabby Curandera from Instagram. And Gabby and I met, like 7 years ago in Brazil, in Salvador, Bahia. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome. So again, as you're coming on, say hello. Let us know you're here. Say hi. Also, let us know if you were here last week, because I would love to. I would be interested in knowing if you were here last week and you're back again for this part 2 of dating talk. All right. So, just earlier today, I was messaging Gabby, and I'm gonna keep it real. Right, I was messaging her, and I would love to hear from Mr. J as well. So I was like, "Oh my God, I just got on this dating app in Brazil, and it's like so frustrating because these guys go automatic to, like I'm talking, trying to have a regular conversation. They automatically go to, what are you wearing right now, or send me a picture. So it's just like, can we have a conversation? Can we get to know each other? Like, and the other thing I was telling her today, I was like, when they just come on and say hello, and then that's it. So then I guess, do I have to start a conversation? So let's start there. And then we got a bunch of other things to talk about because we were getting good. But
it's really interesting. It seems like no matter where you are, women have the same complaints about men on dating apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm on a dating app and I'm looking at a profile, more than likely the profile says something to the effect of, I'm not here for hookups. It will say more to me than just hello. Those are, I would say, the most common things that women will mention somewhere in their profiles. And I wonder if, because it is a virtual initial connection, that people are so disconnected that they don't realize what they're doing.
So you don't think they just think about sex automatically as a guy?
Well, I also say that men can be savage, right? but I still think that a lot of people, but especially men, they forget the cordialities that go into meeting someone. When they're on the internet, there still is, no matter whether you can see their face or details about them, they still feel that there's an air of anonymity. And it's
like wearing a mask.
Wild, right? It's kind of weird, right? Because they're putting information about themselves, so they're kind of breaking down some of the anonymity, but still they do these things.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can liken it to, like when people wear a mask, like back in the old days, there would be masquerade balls, and those would be the wildest parties, because when you can't really, when you couldn't be face to face, it enabled people to feel like they could be their most savage selves. And I think that goes to it speaks to that same psychology online.
Yeah.
There's also the cultural piece. I think each app has its own culture, and each country has its own culture. Like here in the States, Tinder is seen as more of a hookup app.
In Brazil too. That part.
Bumble is, women can initiate. So, and then that it has the feature where you have to kind of select what you're looking for. Some people don't put what they're looking for at all, or they'll say something casual, not sure, all that. And then there's Hinge, which is supposed to only be for relationship seekers, but there are people on there that are like, I'm just here for a good time. And it's like, this whole app is not for that. And so you'll see people that are always at cross purposes, but I think that maybe also thinking about the culture of the app in the context of the culture, the country that you're in.
Yeah.
Or region of that country as well, right? When I've traveled around and I've used the app, being in the Midwest is a way different experience than being in New York or being in San Francisco, right?
True.
I don't know what it's like really to be in other countries so much using it. I mean, I'm American. I've never really lived, and I've never lived in another country. But again, the universal feeling that I get just reading, I'm a hetero cis male, so I'm, if I'm on a dating app, I'm looking for cis females for me. But I don't know always what the culture is in a place, but it's really striking the consistency of women complaining about the same things.
Right.
I think there are more, and I was just having this conversation with someone earlier. I think there are more women of quality than there are men of quality on these dating apps. Men, I think, will play the numbers game more than women do. And again, I don't know what men are saying directly, but I had someone say to me recently, they asked for my phone number, and I said, okay. And, I said, well, what made you ask for my number? And the response was that I didn't hey ma them to them. Hey ma, I didn't, and that I used complete sentences, and I didn't ask for extra pictures.
That's so annoying.
That is so annoying. Let me tell you, if
I would almost prefer you send me a dick pic and I just have to block you than someone trying to engage and then send me a pic, beautiful. And it's just like, you've seen what I look like. I put a full body pic, a couple face pics. I don't look any different. Eventually, if we get to it, we'll FaceTime or have like some kind of like video chat, like off app, after having started like a salient conversation. But send me a pic. It's like, don't get on here like asking me for a bunch of shit. Like,
and it's so funny because I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm always keeping it real. So I'm a tantric therapist. So I work with tantra and sexuality. But I've worked with a lot of clients here who have been talking about their frustrations on the dating apps. So, and I haven't really been on dating apps. I've never really had issues. Like I go out and it's easy for me to meet people, but I'm like, okay, let me go on now. We had COVID. So honestly, this is like my first time kind of really immersing into the app. And I'm like, oh my God, I understand what my clients are saying now. And it's because it's so frustrating. And like literally, I put up a good amount of pictures. I actually write what I'm looking for. And it's that same thing. Oh, send me pictures. And then it's like, and then one guy was talking to one guy and he was like, oh, would you like to go out? No, he was like, oh, when can I see you? So I said, well, we can go out to a restaurant, which they never do here in Brazil. Let's go to a restaurant. And on Wednesday, which was today, and it didn't happen, let's go to a restaurant. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know where you live. There's a hotel right there. And I'm like, this is supposed to be our first date, like going to a restaurant. Why are you bringing up a hotel? So it's almost like, okay, obvious, we're going to go right to a hotel right after going to this restaurant, which, like, no,
I think that speaks to, like in terms of like what you're looking for as a, someone who's moved into a different state of consciousness through your own healing work and all that stuff. What you're looking for changes as you change. And I think we're a lot of us that are spiritual folk, even like I'll say, we all experience frustrations and like weird things on apps. We all do. And I'll say like even getting like I've had plenty of like conversations that start and don't continue either because I don't continue it or the other person doesn't. But even those that make it into a phone conversation or texting or, to, make it off of the app, there's even more frustration at that stage. And then, so I think that you have to kind of really, as you know what it is that you're looking for as a conscious minded person, you have to kind of be in a space of intention and not expectation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have so much to say about all of this, and I'm trying not to just get it all out in one sentence.
Rattle on, I know.
One of the things in the comments, and Natalie said that what I was saying earlier about the woman who asked my number, that it's such a low bar, and I agree. I think in so many instances, because of the pure savagery of dudes, most hetero women, they have a low bar of what they are willing to. Huh?
And you can't, even though men are, when they go low, we have to go high.
Like Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high.
You don't change your standards just because of what is out there. And that behavior continues offline too, and well into dating.
Yeah. To that point, I said to her in response, I said, well, you should keep your expectations high. I think part of the problem is that a lot of these guys say, and again, I don't want to talk for every man. I'm just talking from the perspective of the things that I've had conversations about and have had some experience with. But I think that in many of these instances, men in particular are doing what they're doing because sometimes it works.
A lot of times.
Right? So they may try this thing 100 times and get shot down 99 times. But that one person that it works on makes them believe, empowers them to believe that this can always be a thing. And, so I told her to keep her expectations high. I said, there's no sense in you lowering your expectations because that will lead to your own disappointment. Eventually. It may not be right away. You may even get to a point where you have some short-term gratification. But I can tell you for me that I had to change my way of thinking when it comes to dating and relationships. I stopped settling for things that did not work for me.
I think you need to keep your standards high, though, not expectations. I mean, because expectations.
You're right. Standards
should stay high. Expectations should kind of, I don't know where they should go. Maybe in your pocket.
So, okay.
And to still say hi, you know.
Now that you say that, right? And so I did initially think standards, but then I did say I chose the word expectations for a reason when I was talking to her. And that is because sometimes when we are engaging with someone, if we don't expect much, we often do not get much. Whether our standards are our standards, right? That's not going to change. But if you don't expect someone to engage you in a certain way, then they're going to, and you may allow them, you may lose your own agency or give away your agency to be dealt with the way that you expect to be dealt with.
And that happens a lot when we really, really, really like someone. And I think we're playing with words here, but we're saying, like, yes, we're essentially saying the same thing. But I think that also speaks to holding, like, as we move into consciousness and knowing that the relationship with self and the inner relationship affects all of the outer relationships, period. And it starts here inside. I think that also comes with learning how to navigate our standards when we're really feeling somebody, because it's easy to keep your standards high when it's not, when you don't care.
Right.
Like somebody, you're like,
And I think there's a fear of losing that person.
Yeah.
So then you'll lower that standard to try to do something, you know, to be with them, to keep them. Yeah.
And as women, we can't do that, because even if you get all the way into a relationship, what kind of relationship is that going to be if you've had low standards? It's not.
Or if you're basing it out of fear. If you
right. Or you know, if you're not coming from a mindset of abundance, another like conscious people thing, you know, there will be somebody else that will, you know, that'll say, oh, that's all you needed? Done, you know?
And this is a perfect segue into when do you have sex, right? Because, you know, we're meeting people, whether it's on an app, dating app, or in person. And do we set those standards lower? Do we have sex before we even feel that we're ready, just to try to hold on to that person? Or so how do you know, like, you know, let's talk about this. When is the best time? And I actually just put a post on my Facebook page. Is it okay to have sex? Will you continue in a relationship if you feel a connection and you have sex with the person on the first date? And a lot of guys said yes. And so I was actually surprised, because I thought that a lot of guys would be like, no. But pretty much every guy that responded said yes, except for one who said no. But he was much older, so an older generation.
I mean, but the thing is, it's like connection or attraction. You have to, like, I think we as women tend to like confuse attraction and infatuation with connection. It's like you know, it could. I think the exception is that, you know, if you are looking for a relationship and you happen to slip and fall on some
dick. Oh, sorry.
I don't know who's watching this. Hope none of my family members are watching. But if you
well, you know, I keep it real with the words on my show. So sorry if Gabby's family members are watching.
Yeah. But if you know, even if you do that if you don't expect, you know, you have no problem with just sex and don't expect, and you know, aren't really looking for a relationship, that's a whole nother story. But if you're looking for a deeper connection, I think rushing into sex before that connection has had time to build, you know, is kind of not necessary. The odds are not in your favor, because then you've introduced, you know, sex is like a whole nother entity in the relationship between you two. And so before the two of you have even gotten to know each other, you've introduced sex. And so it's this whole other thing. I don't know, Mr. J.
Yeah, let's hear what Mr. J. And just real quick before you speak, I did have a couple people on that post say they actually got married. They had sex the first night on a date and married the person. So so that was interesting to hear and see from a couple of people.
People always throw those stories out though, and they're the exception. There are far more people that did not happen, and where there are hurt. That's all I say about that.
All right, Mr. J.
So
Mr. J speaks.
I always ask a question. What do you want from this?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In order to answer that, you got to know yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep it real with yourself, you know, internally, externally, keep it real with yourself and ask, what do I want from this? But knowing who you are and being fundamentally sound will help to get you there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may be in a phase in your life where you're just like, I just want some ass.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, and that's fine, and that's
Right.
the easiest space to be in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if you know that you are on a church, that you're like on that, what do they call it, that relationship escalator, and you're looking to, you know, do A, B, C, D to get to step Z, which is the top of the escalator, and that being, you know, marriage, you know, marriage minded.
Mm-hmm.
You got to ask yourself, what do I want from this? And then knowing who you are, maybe if you want to get married, maybe this is not a deal breaker for you.
Whether having sex on the first date or what's not a deal breaker. Okay.
It may or may not. It depends on you know, it really depends on the person and what their goals are and how they see themselves getting to those, being able to reach those goals. For some people, you know, they're like, hey, I'm abstaining until I got a ring on my finger. And if you're one of those people, then having sex on the first date is contrary to what you said your goal is, right? So it's a hard question to be general about.
Can I just offer scenario and ask you a question in a scenario, like Mr. J, like, okay, so imagine that. Okay, let's talk about women who are looking for relationships, right? You know, lasting long-term partnership kind of thing, or marriage in the long run, whatever have you, and whatever that looks like to them. Do you feel and that they're approaching a man that is looking for the same, but, you know, wouldn't mind catching some sex, you know, if it falls into his lap? Do you feel like there's kind of a psychology where men, like, they don't really value things that come so easily?
Good question.
I'm going to say in general, yes. If we looked at a bell curve, you would see the majority of men would be in that section of the curve where the answer to that is yes, right?
There are exceptions.
There are absolutely exceptions.
Women who got married and all that, but when people bring up those stories, I'm like, yeah, that's you know, I don't know if that's necessarily helpful if they're looking for a relationship, because I asked you that question because I already knew the answer. But I asked you that question because I already knew the answer. But yeah, I think in general.
Well, you know, men in general, we are usually the predators. We're the ones that are chasing the prey. You know, I like to give women this scenario about dating. I think all too often when a woman likes a man, and probably like Kali in the group, she says it. She's grateful that she's bi because it's very frustrating to be a woman attracted to men.
It's so embarrassing.
Well, but here's the thing. Like, I know a lot of bi women too, and they are more savage than men are.
Really?
Right? I mean, keep it real. I don't know if either of you date women, but I'm going to tell you because I have a lot of bi female friends, and I can tell you that some of the conversations I have with them, I love them to death, but they are savage. Okay, and so what I tell to women especially when dating men, but I think this can apply to even women who date women. But I'm gonna keep this to the dating men. What I see a lot happen is a woman, when she meets a guy that she likes, she gives up her leverage.
Gives up her power.
She too soon.
Mm-hmm.
I met a woman some years ago, and we were out on our first date, and she was like, "Hey, I'm duty dating," and I was like, "Well, what's that?" She said, "Well, I go out on a lot of dates so that I could be in the practice of dating." And at first, I was like, "Damn,
I need to start."
That's
when I
me.
really thought about it,
You
there's
get
so
good at it.
much power in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
And that,
open yes.
for one, whenever we go to buy something, what is the first thing we do now?
Shop around.
Shop around.
You read the reviews, you do all of that,
Yes.
right? We
Yes.
put more effort into buying a little doodad than we do into our future love relationships. And that shit is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is counterintuitive to what we say matters to us.
True.
So in this duty dating thing, I was like, wow, there's a lot to this. And I'm going to tell you what I learned from
You learn men that way. That's how men know more about women than women know about men. I mean, men that are good at dating or have some have something going on, because there's plenty of clueless dudes. But women generally know a lot less about the way men think than men know about the way women think, because men have made it. Men date multiple women at the same time and all that kind of stuff. And women, we head into monogamy. Like we get monogamous.
Sorry, I had to put that up there.
Amazon spouses and have reviews.
Right.
So let me finish this point, because I think you and I are on the same page with this.
Mm-hmm.
Women will tend to go, even if they go on a couple of dates, as soon as they find the one guy they like, they shut everybody else out.
True.
Right?
Can't do that.
And even if you do that, ladies, please, even if you shut everybody out, don't tell him. Do not tell him that he is the only one in the running, because as soon as you do that, you have given up the leverage in that engagement. And
True.
I'm going to tell you, like I said earlier, men, we are the predators. We like to chase. And once you have let it known prematurely that there's no longer a reason to chase, many men will just take you for granted. And it's
let me ask real quick. So what do you recommend? What are like maybe 5 things you could say that women could do to not give up that leverage, to not allow the man to know? You said one already. Don't let him know you're not dating anyone else. What maybe like 4 other things you could say?
Well, let me say it like this. First of all, date other people. Like, just be in the practice of duty dating. And I know that is hard because of, I want to say in general, there's the bell curve. There's a large percentage of of what I'm about to say that applies to the majority of women. Just like your question to me earlier applies to the majority of men. I know there are exceptions. I'm not talking about the exceptions. But duty date. Go on a lot of dates, because what you're going to learn from doing this is you're going to find out the type of man you do not want to date. That's going to be the first thing you learn. Then from the remaining pool, you're going to find out the ones that you actually do like and do want to date. And then there's that ambiguous one in the middle. Those don't matter. What your goal is to get to the type of men that you actually are interested in and actually want to date.
And learning what the games are that the ones you don't want to date are playing. Like
it's all experience. It's research, right? If you want to, when you talk about being in a relationship, or doing something and being good at it. Who are the people that are good at things? The people who are good at things that are people who practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so if you ever read, what's the book Outliers, he talks about the 10,000 hours in Outliers, right? And in order to become an expert in something, you need to have done it for like 10,000 hours. That's about 10 years worth of doing something, right? And I'm not suggesting that you go and date for 10 years right now in order to find love and all that. But I will say that if you are younger, that you especially that you do take some time. If you're 20 years old, I personally don't think you should get married before you're 30. That's just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
You're not a grown up until you're 30. If
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Even 35 sometimes. Like I
just
35 is okay. That's when I really started learning more about myself and really started transforming.
Mm-hmm.
Was at 35.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Look, I got separated at 35 from my marriage. And you know, I will often say that it was one of the biggest failures of my life. But what it did is that it gave me an opportunity to grow and to learn and to figure me out.
So it wasn't a failure.
Right. But well, it was a failure, and failure is okay. Failure is okay because it's an opportunity to learn and to grow from. So I don't shy away from saying that I failed at something because I know who I am, and I know that anytime I fail at something, I've learned a lot of a lesson, and so that's okay. But you getting to having for me, having that traumatic event happen in my life is what at 35 is the thing that made me learn and grow.
It brought you to awareness. Pain
Absolutely.
and things like that bring you to awareness and give you an opportunity for deepening. Kylie said one thing that I thought was interesting. She didn't agree that many women, she didn't agree that men know more about women. And I wanted to point out, like, I think men know a lot more about women in terms of getting what they want than women know about men to get what women want from men, you know? So I just wanted to point that out. I think men have a lot to learn about women, about life in general, but because of, you know, duty dating or what I've called, you know, circular dating or having a roster or continuing to, you know, like do that research, as Mr. J said, like that you get to learn about not only do you go through the painful experiences that you need in order to do that deepening into your own healing, like, ooh, I got triggered by this person, or this situation showed me how much more I need to love myself, or whatever have you. Not only do you learn more about yourself, but you learn a lot more by doing your research about the kind of dick tactics that men have and games that men play. Like there are some wild behaviors out there that men will do because they've done a lot of dating, that they know that if you don't really have your shit straight, you don't have your head screwed on and your heart, you know, protected and held up, and your standards and all that stuff that comes from the inner work. If you haven't done that, men are pirates. Like I keep saying, they can't, like you said, savages, I say pirates, same thing. Same thing. You know?
I want to go back because you had asked for 5 things, and I don't know if I have just 5 things. I want to say a couple of things that I think matter, right? I already talked about, you know, not giving up leverage, and I'm not saying these in any particular order, but like not giving up your leverage, making a point of dating. Also, damn it, I had a good one and I was just about to say to you.
Boundaries, self-respect, any of those?
Well, absolutely. Oh, I know what it was. Ask questions.
Investigate.
So it's a little bit more than just investigating, right? Because it's really getting to the root of what someone means by what they say. So if a guy's like, "Hey, I want to be in a relationship," right? I'll give you a personal example. I was seeing someone a few years ago, and you know, we both agreed that, you know, we wanted to be in a long-term relationship. 16 months into it, I ended the relationship. And she said, yo, I thought you said you wanted to be in a long-term relationship. And I said, well, for me, this is a long-term relationship. But for her, she was talking 3-5 years like that. Mm. So
why did you end it? You just language said they were done, or why you just said, okay, 16 months is exact my time, my relationship timer's gone off, I'm out? Like, what do you mean?
No. It just, things just weren't trending weird, because we also said that if, we got to a point where things weren't working for us, that we should, be forthcoming about that. And for me, the relationship just wasn't, there were some elements that were awesome, but there were parts of it that just didn't work for me anymore. We're still good friends, but we were better apart than together ultimately. But I guess really what I'm getting at is, don't just use the same terms. I think often we do not, even if we scratch a little bit at what the thing means, we should be digging a little bit. So if somebody says to you that they want a relationship, okay, I want a relationship too. So what does a relationship mean to you?
What does it mean? Get specific.
Right? And then, and I think both parties need to say, hey, this is what a relationship means to me. This is what it means to me. Okay, so what happens if this happens in a relationship? Like, you need to be thinking about the good, the bad, and the ugly around what a relationship is. Not just the good stuff, not just the things that make you feel good, not just what's in the dictionary, but really talk about what a relationship means. Because, we often find out who the person we're with really is under some type of duress. And by that point, sometimes it's too late to just back out of that relationship. So ask more questions, ladies. I mean, everyone should be doing that, but I think especially, I don't feel like women ask enough questions of men to really get to the answers that they want. I believe that also, moving on to another part of that, expectations. I told my daughter, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I told her, I said, if you ever come home and you tell me that you're dating a boy who sags his pants, you and I are going to have a long conversation. You have to raise your expectations so that he knows that you expect him to be better. Yeah, your standards, like, and I know we kind of vacillated between standards and expectations, right? But ultimately, I need her to know that she should expect better from any man, regardless of her own standards. She should expect better of any boy or man that she's dating with than be sagging his pants in dealing with her. She's got to know that that is not okay, because it isn't okay. I mean, to me, I want her to know that she can have, that she should expect better than that from anyone, right? I want
talk to her about how she should be treated and not just how his pants are. Because a guy who's sagging his pants can be an awesome human being that treats her like gold, as opposed to someone who dresses really nicely and is actually a sleazebag.
But I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. I'm being a little bit more quiet because my internet is messing up. So I'm just letting you guys talk.
Well, listen. Gabby, I'm giving you.
Could you hear me?
You a very specific example of a thing. Please do not. I hope that you will not judge my parenting based on that one element, because if I had all day, I'd tell you all of the things that I talk to my daughter about, but I don't have that right now.
Made the same comment. They're like sagging pants, fashion choices. Like, yeah, I'm glad you clarified. That's just an example, even though that's generational, I feel like. But, fashion choices and how people dress is not necessarily an indicator of character, but we get that you're making an example of go for what is have an expectation of what is acceptable to you.
Yeah.
I think, how the kids dress versus what is appropriate might be a little.
On that example that he gave, it just made me think when I was listening. And sorry, my internet is going in and out, so I'm not catching everything. But it just made me think. Even when I was younger, I remember being like 17 years old, and I went on one of my first dates, and I sat in the car. The guy came out, and I literally just sat for him to come around and open the door for me. And whenever we would go, we'd go into the restaurant, I would wait for them to open a door for me, because that was one of, for me, one of my standards. And I know there's some people who don't care, don't need that. But I like to be, I've always, ever since I was a kid, to be felt like a woman, or felt like a girl at that time, or a young lady, depending on that standard. And so even now, if I'm going out and, everybody has I still expect you, and I want you to open the door for me. Now, one of the things that I do as well, I reach over and I open the door from them from the inside. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that I've learned. And I always do, because I'm also giving them that consideration and letting them know that I'm thinking about them too. But I have certain things that I want and expect. Although living in Brazil, I kind of had to let that go. I had to lower my standards in Brazil because most people don't have cars. And they're not doing a lot of that.
Those little social norms, those may have to be tweaked. But the things that come from your sense of self-respect, even in the face of being with someone that you think is like, oh my God, so amazing, you have to have a sense of self that's so strong, so self-loving, that you're not going to put anybody up on a pedestal so high.
Yes.
You're going to take any treatment that is not okay. And that's why, and then when you get into more detailed expectations, conversations need to be had. There's a book called Silent Agreements that talks about pre-relationship, relationship, about, you have to not only have your expectations and standards and stuff that come from a deep sense of self, but also be able to hold on to those, and then be able to open up your mouth and learn how to communicate, and not be worried about running somebody off by saying, hey, like, let's talk about, like, for example, communication. I'm someone that likes to be like, I like when you like reach out every day. Mm-hmm. Every guy may not do that, but that's that's what I need to feel like our budding relationship or our connection is a safe container for me to be emotionally available with you, because that shows me that you care enough to do so. That may not mean the same thing to both people, and that speaks to what you were saying, Mr. J, about being very just being very clear about, I just lost my thought, but like what you were saying, I totally agree in that.
Yeah, about getting to what you mean by what you say.
What you mean, yes. What does a relationship look like to you? You have to do that at all levels. What does good communication look like to you? Because a guy could like you a lot, but think that calling you twice a week is enough. That doesn't make him wrong or bad. It just y'all make a difference. And then what's your boundary and expectation on that? What's his boundary and expectation? What's everybody's needs, and how close to having them meet can we get? And we get that information by communicating.
And that even goes into the love languages, because each person's love languages is different, right? Yeah, so one person might be physical doing, and the other might be more talking, so that's also understanding what your love language is and what your partner's love language is, and meeting each other there too. And what?
Attachment style.
An attachment style.
If you have not done attachment style research, you should. Like, are you a secure person? Are you coming from a past of trauma? Like, again, knowing that relationship with self, and then understanding the other person. Like Mr. J said, asking questions. What was your relationship with your parents like? Like, you should be having deep conversations where these questions are coming. Like, the depth of the conversation comes from these kinds of questions, not like you're interviewing or somebody, but you're qualifying them and you're vetting them. And that's when I say investigate, like, who is this person that you're dealing with? Because it's not enough to say, I like him and put him up. Who is this person?
Right.
Is he opening up? Are you opening up? Are you sharing? Because that's what, that's what is germane to investment in each other, which is what makes something real. That's what makes, that's what helps you know what you're dealing with. Oh, this person doesn't contact me every day, not necessarily because they don't like me,
Mm-hmm.
but because there's someone that needs more space. Is that okay with me?
Right.
What adjustments do I need to make? Oh, let me talk to them about it. Because so much is just like, let's just hee and hoo and kiki and have cute, flirty conversations. And if that's all you want, that's fine. But again,
Mm-hmm.
to wanting a deeper relationship, those questions.
Right.
So to that point, I just want to add, don't believe what you see on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Investigate.
You know, you can look at a person and whatever their resume is, whatever your wants and your standards, and say and have check boxes and put that down on paper, and it may be like, hey, you know what, this person is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You need to shred that paper and really deal with the person.
Behind that.
Right.
Who are they behind that?
They wrote their own resume. Of course, they're gonna make it look a certain way.
Right. I remember that made me think of this is a whole nother topic, but it's just similar. So, just hearing that, I had one time when I lived in the States, I used to have interns, and one lady sent me a resume. Oh my God, on paper, it was amazing. I was like, yes, this is gonna be my intern, my psychotherapy practice. She came in and I was asking her some questions and she couldn't answer. I was like, is this her resume? Like, this was horrible. But then I made the decision to go ahead and hire her because I was like, she has a good foundation, and I know that I'm gonna have to, give her that experience, and I'm gonna have to be a little bit more on her and walk her through and teach her. And so it just made me think about that when you were saying that. And it's
you're auditioning and interviewing these men. You want to make it fun. You don't want to grill them like a real interview, but like you don't want to. You are people. That's why you have a roster. Men are in an interview process. And you got to treat them like trainees until they have shown you that they have the skill level to be an employee. Not that
you can make that decision. You can make that choice. Like I chose to go ahead and work with her, knowing that I would have to give more. Oh wait, Kali, real quick before you leave, you said you wish that there was more convo like this for men. They need a lot of intentional conversations about emotional intelligence. Thank you. Share this with the men that you know. Share this, and all the other ladies, I just want to hear. Share this with the men because yes, we need more conversations like this with men. And maybe we'll do a couple more of these on live with men as well.
It's actually good to see Kali here. We're actually friends as well. I didn't even know that she knew about this.
My friend too.
Okay. All three of us. Small world. So listen. So share this because so more men can see this and get into these conversations. And maybe if Gabby and Mr. J is wanting to do another one, we can go even deeper. Because we didn't even get onto a lot of the topics that we were looking at talking about.
You can watch this and kind of flesh out some of these topics because I'm gaining so much wisdom we're sharing, and it's really like a great convo. We can take it in a number of directions.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And okay, so continue. so this, that's what we were saying. So you can decide whether you want to hire that person or go into a relationship, or you can decide not, and just throw away the resume
without interviewing her. And you didn't just hire her without interviewing her, without seeing how she did on the job. And it's the same with dating. You don't just say, I like you, you're great. That's not safe.
But let me say this though, because I think this is another thing. You can hire someone, they could be a great interview. You can interview someone and they could be, they could have had a great interview, but that doesn't mean you need to hire them.
That's right.
You got to be okay with seeing a great candidate and still knowing that they're not a good fit for you.
That's right.
Exactly.
Don't be afraid to walk away.
You got to have yourself, your value of yourself has to be so high that the most beautiful man on the planet, if he, got paid money, all the things that people value superficially, if the treatment is not there, if he's not meeting your expectations and you've, had a conversation nicely about it, like, hey, these are the kind of things that make me feel sexy, or these are the kind of things that make me feel safe with you, or these are the kinds of things that make me feel valued by you. And they're like, all right. And they don't think that it's not important to them. Why would you give them the job?
Right. And also trusting your intuition, and that was one of the things with this lady, she had everything on paper. When I spoke to her, she didn't know because she didn't have the practical experience, but my intuition, sorry, there's a motorcycle going by if you hear it. My intuition was saying, give her a chance. And and that she would be a good fit. And so I was happy it worked out, And so I think that's another thing. Sometimes our intuition might be saying in one way or the other, intuition might be like, no. And you're like, but no, everything, he's gorgeous. He has this job. He makes this amount of money, but I'm feeling a no. Why? And you don't listen. And then you end up going out with him, and it just, you see that it didn't work out or there was something.
I have a saying that I talk about this. I'd say to people, trust your gut, because it's that moment that you go against your gut that you feel that most angst.
Yes.
And you feel it. You feel it when you don't trust your gut. There's a physical reaction because it is your instinct. It is your judgment. We have that same animal instinct. Judgment is a thing that keeps you safe. So when people say don't judge, no, judge. Your instinct is that judgment. It's there to protect you. And honestly, it generally does not steer you wrong because it's designed to be there to keep you safe.
Yes.
And all too often we go against our gut and we end up having what? Regrets. Right? And then we say, I should have trusted my gut. Yes, you should have trusted your gut. Pay attention to what your instincts and your body is trying to tell you.
Yes, exactly. Completely agree. So real quick for a little commercial announcement. So go ahead and follow. Be sure you're following us on Instagram. You have our Instagram at Prandhara Prem _Tantra, at Mr. J Speaks, and at Gabi.Curandera. Follow us on Instagram. Give us a like on this on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. Make sure you give a like and share this. That's important. All right, so we got a few more minutes. We got about a few more minutes to wrap up. So if there's any final things that you want to say on this topic or go back to anything.
I really just want to say that I think it's important that you take care of you first. The relationship that you want will be there when you are at your most whole self.
Yes.
When you're not your whole self, it is very difficult to find a relationship that will be sustainable. Right? So work on you first. Love thyself. Know and love thyself.
And so, we were talking about this last night on the adult conversations on Tuesday. And that was the thing that we were talking about, like the importance of actually doing therapy. And sometimes you need to do therapy or counseling to help you to get to that point where you can love yourself, or you can trust yourself, or you're more confident in yourself. And sometimes a lot of people are afraid to go through that therapy for different reasons. One, because of the stigma. There might be a stigma that they think that it's a sign of weakness, or they can't get through something on their own, or they go through when they say, well, even though I'm doing therapy, it's not going to change that other person. Other people are going to still be the same, so it's still going to be hard for me. But it's important, like you're saying, to do that work on yourself, becoming whole, learning how to trust your instincts, your guts, learning how to just do the work to actually improve your self-esteem, your self-confidence, and most importantly, your self-worth. Because a lot of times we don't know our self-worth, and then we settle, or we set the standards a lot lower, that lower bar, so it's important. And there's nothing wrong with doing therapy. There's so many different types of therapies out there. There's coaching, there's sound healing like Gabby does with her amazing voice. You know,
child healing.
Yes, inner child healing. There's plant medicine. There's tantric therapy. There's all kinds of different things. So there's so many different avenues that can get you to the same place. And there's no one type of set therapy or treatment that's better than the other. You just have to figure out what's going to be best for you. Exactly. So just like what we were talking about, try the different things, you know? So, and then you'll find which one works best for you and help you to get on this path.
And I would just say, take each pitfall as a lesson and an opportunity to deepen into your own healing. You know, take each experience as a way to see what it is that you still need to do within yourself in order to attract what it is that you want, because you can't chase this thing outside of yourself before you do the inner work. And I think we are all in a definite agreement about that.
Exactly. Well, wow. The time always flies by because these conversations are always so good. Like, but I just want to thank everyone who came on, who joined, who commented, who asked questions. This was really amazing. Thank you, Mr. J Speaks. Thank you, Gabby. If you guys have anything going on, please feel free to share. Let me just share real quick. On Mondays, I have a Tantra Sound Healing course. That's once a week on Mondays. It's really great to help you get centered, get grounded, working on activating and balancing those chakras. You can join my Patreon on Patreon. I have different activities. Every Sunday, I have Sunday self-exploration, where we're exploring how to know your body, connect to your body even more. Mondays are Monday meditations, and Tuesdays are Tantric Tuesdays. Then I'm going to be adding on to my Patreon one specifically for women, where you'll get all of that, plus monthly sister circles. So that's going to be great. I have all of that information on my patreon.com. So check me out there. If you want to learn more about my work, go to my website, www.prandharaprem.com. Awesome. So Gabby, do you have anything you want to share? Do you have anything coming up?
For right now, I'm going to be delving into my own deep healing work. And, you know, I do have some small private medicine circles that I'm going to be doing with my medicine tribe, and a few people will be invited on an invite-only basis. But if you are interested in learning more about plant medicine work, working with entheogenic medicine, sound healing, or anything like that, inner child healing, those are all my jam. You can follow me on Instagram. You can send me direct message, and I will respond.
All right, awesome. Anything you would want to share, Mr. J?
I'm going to pass it right now. You know my life.
Mr. J likes to be behind the scenes, giving out great information, great advice. I'm pushing him to do more. Yeah. We might have a little workshop coming up in the future together, a little online retreat, but stay tuned. If we do, we'll let you know. I'm trying to give him a little advice. I'm sorry, say that again.
So, Mr. J, I'm going to be hitting you up for some advice.
Shoot, not only you, I think all of us will be. But join us on Tuesday nights. Via Zoom. It's free. We talk about different topics, different relationship topics, and it's fun because there's a lot of men and women on there. So love to have you. All right.
One thing, if anybody has any questions they didn't get to ask us, please feel free to reach out. You have our Instagrams. You know, mine is a new Instagram. I needed to create a separate type of situation for this chat. But you know, I will be checking it regularly.
He got to keep himself anonymous. Go ahead.
So
I'm sorry, finish. Go ahead.
No, that was all.
Okay. So so thank you again. Thank you everyone for coming on. Thank you both.
We got to do this again.
We had a great time. We definitely
let's have a part 3.
Yeah.
You know what? If you guys are down, because I do like to vary it up. But for the month of November, if you're down, we could do a part 3 and a part 4 and just keep it for the month of November, these relationships. And then I can go back to my regularly scheduled program of, you know, working with other sex therapists and things like that. But I think this is good. So if you guys are down, let's do this a part 3 and 4 for November, just for the month of November.
Sure. If you want to keep the same time, this works. It works for me.
Yeah, same time. So here we go, people. We're planning live with you all here watching us. So we're planning this together. All right.
We can all create our own realities. Absolutely.
Crucian says, nice to have a male view. Submit those questions. Yes.
Submit those
you
questions.
know what? Actually, submit those questions to either of us, and then next week we can be sure that we cover those topics. So, or we can talk to you right here now. I mean, not right here now. You know, when you send it, we could talk. But it's good if you send the questions, then we can address that also in group because other people might have those same questions. All right. Love you guys. Good night.
All right, take care.
Take care. Bye.